I've been in the kitchen, whipping up the grits, and I've been really cooking true. Cutting off the dead ends, warming up my blessings, cooking up the perfect soup. Cause God's been really speaking, and I've been really seeing how you're manifesting proof. I've been cooking up some blessings for me, cooking up some blessings for me.
Hi everyone, welcome to In the Kitchen with Halifax Public Libraries. I'm Nicole Johnson, one of the community specialists here for Preston Township area. We are in the kitchen cooking some African Nova Scotian recipes that are home cooked meals, easy recipes.
Absolutely.
And today our chef is Chef Leon Hamilton. Welcome.
Hi there, thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. We're going to learn a lot of great cooks today because you're cooking what? What are we cooking?
Today we're going to start with my Cajun chicken and dirty rice recipe. I came up with this recipe about 2 years ago, working with a social worker group that was helping families in need that were hit hardest during the COVID times.
Yes.
So we were doing some virtual cooking classes and they wanted something similar to this. So I feel like this dish is a definite crowd pleaser, has definitely become my signature dish, to say the least, and I have no doubt that you all will enjoy this dish.
Can't wait to get to the testing. So why do we start first?
First thing we're gonna start doing is chopping our vegetables, and then we will move on to working with our raw proteins.
Okay,
So,
wonderful.
with this recipe, we have an assortment of vegetables. There we go. Try to get away, yeah. So first thing that we're gonna do is we'll start with the onion. That will be one of the easiest vegetables to chop with. And I will give you, if you don't mind.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll give you a quick
You're the
demo
professional. I'm
and a
just your
quick
shoe
tip
chef.
on how I always
Okay.
encourage my children and anybody that is shy with using a knife. So the first thing I did there, you just saw me cut both ends off of the onions, giving myself a flat surface to work with. That way I know that the onion is not gonna roll away with me.
Right on.
Okay, so for this recipe, we're only gonna need about 1 cup of each one of those vegetables chopped up. So the half an onion that we have here, we probably won't even need it. I'm not gonna bother measuring. That one there should hold it.
Okay.
So with the onion, you can see that it has ribs and natural lines that run through it. But for this recipe, we're gonna go against those lines. And I wanna try to cut it as small as I can.
So these are the diced.
Exactly. This is going to be what is known as a small dice.
Okay.
Is the shape and the size that we're going for. So now that it is sliced like that, we have some half moon shapes there. Once it's in the half moon shapes, we can then turn those onto its side, just like that. And then if you're working with a knife that doesn't happen to be as sharp as one of mine, even if it's a dull knife, it will still safely go through the onion and it won't rock, it won't slide,
Right on.
and your fingers will stay where they're supposed to as long as you keep them tucked. Just like that, you should be fine to cut the onion.
So you're using the knuckles as your guide.
I'm using the knuckles as my guide, keeping my fingertips into the food to hold them in place.
Wonderful.
Just like that.
Wonderful.
And if that doesn't suit you as well, you can totally rest your hand that you're, instead of holding the onion on the spine of the knife, and still chop it just like that, and you can still get a decent size small dice.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So I noticed that we're using a colored cutting board.
Yes.
What is the reasons for that?
The reason for using different colored cutting boards is to avoid foodborne illnesses from entering the food that you and your family and loved ones are going to consume. So the reason we're using a blue cutting board is we're going to use this for any of our raw vegetables and fruit, can totally be used on this one. And then for the raw chicken that we're going to be using in this, you'll see us switch to a completely different cutting board. We're going to switch to a yellow one for the raw chicken. And once again, I want to emphasis on the raw, because for the cooked chicken, we can still totally use the same cutting board, because once the chicken is properly and thoroughly cooked, there should be zero risk of foodborne illnesses. Next one that we'll work on, I'll say, is the celery. We'll get that done. So we got a nice, beautiful bunch of celery here. We're really only going to need 1 or 2 stalks, once again, to get about 1 cup of the cut vegetable that we need. Once again, we need just 1 cup of chopped vegetables, that piece there. It has a little bit of brown piece on it, so that one we will just keep off to the side. We'll save that for stock as well. Even though it's brown, don't necessarily want it in the dish, but once it's going to be boiled down, you won't even notice it. Today I'm gonna use jasmine rice, which is my personal favorite today. But you can totally use even basmati rice. I've done that several times, as well as brown rice. If you're looking for an even healthier approach with this dish, using brown rice would be a good addition, but just bear in mind that it has a longer cook time than most white rices. So you want to make sure you get that on before you start your chopping, because then everything else that you need to be cooking can be done while the brown rice is cooking. That roughly takes about half hour to 45 minutes to cook. So with the jasmine rice that I'm working with today, the packaging on the back has a 2-to-1 ratio, so that means 2 cups of water to 1 cup of rice. So I'm gonna get that on the go right now.
So again, I'll just remind those of you who are following along in the video, please refer to your recipe. Chef Leon is the professional, so he can whip and snip, but follow your recipe, it's included in your cookbooks.
The mushrooms, it's really not gonna matter that much because they are going to shrink up.
Down. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
But also for safety purposes, I always encourage people to work with a flat surface regardless of what vegetable that they're working with. The mushrooms being no exception as well. So I just cut that in half, lay it flat down, and then from there we can quarter it again.
Okay.
And the mushrooms can be cut a little bit bigger. They don't necessarily have to be a small dice like the rest of them. That way they won't end up getting lost, but they'll still end up shrinking down by the time they're cooked. That will end up being roughly about the same size as the celery that you have chopped there.
Okay.
It is Cajun chicken, and we are going to be very generous with the spices with this dish. So I'm even going to add just a pinch of salt and pepper to the rice water while it is going.
So this is a very flavor-packed recipe.
Oh, yes.
And
Absolutely.
some people like a lot of heat. Are you one of those individuals?
Yes. Yes, I am.
I mean, I like flavor, but the heat, I don't know. Not so much.
Well, with this one, you can play with it a bit, right?
Right.
So I have 2 teaspoons of chili powder listed in the ingredients in this recipe. But if you can't handle some of the spicy foods, such as Nicole, you can totally dial it back to just 1 teaspoon of chili powder instead of 2. And then, of course, there's other ones out there too, like chipotle powders and whatnot as well. But I tend to create recipes with ingredients that most people already have in their house. Chili powder, paprika, being one of the most of the common ones that people will have in their house as well. 2 cups of water, 1 cup of rice, just a pinch of salt and pepper, and I'm gonna cover that. Once the rice comes to a boil, then we're gonna cover it, reduce the heat to a low simmer. We don't want it bubbling the entire time. We're gonna reduce the heat to a low simmer, and we're gonna set a timer for 13 minutes, roughly what most rice take to cook. If the rice is cooking is done by the time the 13 minutes is up, that's no problem. We got all kinds of time for it to wait while we finish cooking the vegetables and chicken as well.
Is this a recipe that you have to prepare the night before, or the chicken marinating in any way? Do you?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Nope. I skipped all of that because it's a combination of laziness and forgetfulness that I don't marinate my meats, that I don't marinate my chicken, right?
Okay.
With 3 boys at home, every day.
You gotta have things hot and ready, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They don't always got the patience for waiting for the meat to be marinating for exactly 24 hours or anything else like that. So this recipe here, as long as the chicken is thawed, even if it is semi-frozen, you will still be able to successfully do this chicken. I promise you. Yeah. Another tip as well, if you really want to kick this recipe up a notch, adding bacon to it, adding some sauteed bacon to it, to the finished product, or even while the vegetables are sauteing or something like that, would really help to kick it up a notch. But I chose to omit it just because more and more people these days are choosing to not eat pork and not eat bacon and stuff like that as well. So I understand that. Trust me, you will enjoy this dish even with or without bacon.
Is that plenty or less?
Let's go half.
Half?
Yeah, let's go half.
I could do half?
Everybody's probably going to want some of this, and garnishing all of the plates with the finished green onion.
Okay, so I don't need this for cook, we just need this for garnish?
No, we're going to chop that up as well.
Okay.
But it won't actually be sauteed with the rest of the vegetables.
Okay, so now, go ahead.
Okay. We're going to take the beards off of the end of the green onions. Thank you so much for setting up that bin. Now, for fastness purposes, what I'm going to do is I cut it right in half just like that. Okay. Now we can cut them just into straight up circles just like that. But ovals tend to be more pleasing to the eye. So what I'm gonna do is slice these what is known on the bias. So if I just wanna come at the green onion from a straight angle like that, that's gonna get us the circles like that. If you wanna cut something on the bias, what you need to do is either turn the food on an angle or turn your knife on an angle like that. And then that will give you some oval-esque shaped slices on the green onion.
Oval-esque. I love it. I love the term. Oval-esque. I learned something new today. Wonderful.
So you can try that as well if you like. Not a necessity. Once again, just cut them as small as you can, even if they happen to be a bit chunkier. So we got 2 teaspoons of paprika. 1, 2.
So earlier you mentioned about using smoked paprika.
Yes. If you can get your hands on smoked paprika, thank you so much for bringing that up, Nicole. You won't regret it. Working with smoked paprika it's like working with 2 different spices almost. With regular paprika and smoked paprika. Like, I almost consider paprika just to be red. It's there just to help the chicken have some color, or just to like have like pastas and sauces and stuff like that have some color. So here we have some boneless, skinless chicken breast. You can totally choose to swap out the boneless, skinless if you're looking for something a little bit more flavorful.
Right on.
That would also help to level up the dish even more if you're not gonna add bacon, but you're looking for, slightly different flavor. Doing this dish with boneless, skinless chicken thighs as well will give you the exact same result, if not just a little bit better. But we're gonna keep it lean today and go with some chicken breast.
Okay.
So what I wanna show you is a cutting technique known as the butterfly cut when it comes to doing the chicken breast, okay? This one here, we got some nice thick chicken breast here, and it actually has the chicken tender attached. We're still totally gonna use that, but what I wanna show you is how to get the vein out of it. Most people won't know or won't care about the vein that's in there. So another way to get that out of there that I like to use is to just make a small incision like that, cut around it, toss that, and we'll leave those pieces right there, the tenders, off to the side. We are still totally gonna be using that, okay? Okay. I'm gonna cut out the vein here in the breast.
Because that makes that, what, tender or tougher?
Exactly, yeah. It might be like a little bit chewy to bite into. Still totally digestible, just like a little bit of stringy piece. Chew. Exactly, like that. Not a fan for everybody. So the butterfly cut that I was talking about, when you have a thick chicken breast like this, with the dish that we're gonna be trying to fry fast, by the time we cook the inside, the outside, will be pretty much burnt or like way too overcooked. So to avoid overcooking your chicken breast, I want to show you what is known as the butterfly cut. So I'm going to lay my hand flat down, parallel to the cutting board, and I'm going to have my knife the same angle, parallel to the cutting board at about a halfway mark through the chicken breast. Okay. So keep the knife parallel to the cutting board, and I'm trying to avoid cutting all the way through the chicken breast, so that it opens up like that, and it literally
looks like a butterfly.
Looks like a butterfly, and that's where the term comes from. So now what we have is a thinner chicken breast that has more surface area, but less density, so it will cook fast, and it won't burn on us.
Okay, love that.
As well, right? And that's gonna make even more sense once we start frying them in the frying pan, trust me. Once again, keeping it at a medium heat, so that we cook the chicken without burning it. All of those small tender pieces there that are off to the side, those ones got a nice browning to them.
Those are the ones I go for first.
Yeah, the chicken tender does not have its name by accident. It is the most tender part of the chicken breast. Okay, there we go. So that's been about 5 minutes or so. After adding the water or chicken broth in there, you can see everything is lifting off.
Yes, it is.
Everything that was stuck there from the seared chicken breast. Just about everything is lifting right off, and that is exactly what is going to help give the rice that dirty appearance that is in the name. So the mushrooms are nicely shrunken and softened up. The celery and onion also fully cooked. Just a little bit of bite to them, but that is okay. So what we can do now, a little bit of moisture in there, that's fine as well. That's exactly what I want. I'm going to shut the heat off at this point because I don't want it to cook any further than that. Okay, so we have the mixing bowl here. For the amount of chicken and vegetables that we have, I think it's gonna be an easier approach. Okay. So what I'm gonna do.
Put the sauteed onions and vegetables at the bottom?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, everything can go in at this point, Nicole. So if you wanna bring that pot of rice over.
Sure can.
That can go in there as well. We can mix that in there next. There we go. is the rep special. Let me get in there. Okay. Adding in the jasmine rice.
Looks good.
Okay.
Chef Leon has done an excellent job. Send in your pictures and your videos and let us see your finishing plate. By all means, we're gonna also make a couple extra plates, right?
Oh,
For
yes, absolutely.
some taste samples,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I can't wait to dig in.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicole.
That's right. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next
I've been
video.
in the kitchen, whipping up the grits, and I've been really cooking true. Cutting off the dead ends, warming up my blessings, cooking up the perfect soup. Cause God been really speaking, and I've been really seeing, I'm your manifesting proof. I've been cooking up some blessings for me, cooking up some blessings for me.